Good evening. Today is Monday, February 12th, 2024. It is 5 p.m. We're here for a regular trustee meeting, a special event, which is why you are all here. And if you can join me to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes or additions?
Yes, Board, I do have one recommendation. Under new business, I'd like to move up the 911 committee update. Chief Heister has to attend the Beavercreek City Council meeting. He does have a presentation based off of the last county 911 meeting that he would like to give to the board.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda as corrected.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $354,655.43 for the January 24th, 2024 payroll, and the amount of $338,838.78 for the February 7th, 2024 payroll.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I move to accept the payment listing reports in the amount of $1,399,177.44 for warrants through February 8th, 2024.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. This time we have minutes before us from the January 22nd, 2024 regular trustee meeting. Are there any changes? If none, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 22nd, 2024 regular trustee meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. And at this time, we have a special ceremony we're here for. So who would like to take the lead as chief here?
Yeah, Chief Vanderboss had to take a moment and step out.
Okay.
So just so we can continue with the meeting, I'd like to present Chief Heister, maybe do the 911 committee update.
Perfect. Okay. It's Chief Heister here.
And
He's up in the office. Okay.
probably assisting Chief Vanderboss.
Okay.
Well, we will move on board so we can continue business, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
First item on the agenda this evening is a dispatch agreement by and between Greene County, City of Xenia, and Beavercreek Township. Board, if you recall, this has been a desire from Greene County and the City of Xenia through what they call Greene Central. This is the dispatch center that is jointly utilized by Greene County and the City of Xenia. However, is maintained, operated, and staffed by City of Xenia employees. As we all know, Beavercreek Township does utilize the city of Beavercreek primarily for dispatch services. So this is not to be confused with the dispatch services that we utilize with the city of Beavercreek. This is rather it's a very de minimis call volume, but the calls that originate in the unincorporated area for calls for service dealing primarily with public service calls. So if you think about inclement weather, when our deputies are patrolling the unincorporated area, if there is snow being accumulated on the ground, they'll dispatch to have the public service department, formerly our road department, be called out and address and start treating the roads. If there is a downed tree in the unincorporated area, whoever sees that downed tree, many a times the deputy, but others can report that to dispatch, and that dispatch call goes to Greene Central and not the city of Beavercreek. Greene County went through a year-long implementation of a new agreement to start having the various political subdivisions quote-unquote paying their fair share for the dispatch services of Green Central. There was a belief that certain political subdivisions on the eastern eastern part of the Greene County were essentially be subsidized by the county. So through this agreement, this is our, quite frankly, arbitrary amount of what we calculate to be our taxation, so to speak, on Green Central Dispatch. 2023 is when this dispatch agreement was starting to be negotiated, and it took the city of Xenia about 6 months for them to accept our recommendations. Our legal counsel, Ms. Frick, and I were going back and forth, and they finally accepted any of the amendments to the agreement. So the agreement in front of you, in your packet on the screen here, with all the additions that Ms. Frick and I have asked for. In addition to that, 2023 was a in-kind year for this new agreement. For 2024, which is the year we're in now, it's a cost of $2,000 to be able to have this dispatch service for the unincorporated area, which is primarily for public service calls. Any 911 calls that would accidentally be routed through Green Central, by law, they have to send those calls out. However, calls of public service, again, inclement weather, down trees, sanitary, if there's a busted water line or a sanitary backup, those calls do not legally have to be routed through dispatch. Dispatch is able to charge for a service for that, and this agreement represents what they believe is a adequate charge for the services that Green Central provides to the unincorporated area of Beavercreek Township. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any. On your screen here, there is a sample motion. Here's the exhibit of the pricing for the next 3 years. And then there's a sample motion on page 21 and in front of you.
So, Mr. Rushing, on page 2 of 7, under term, it shows June 1 of 2023 to June 1 of 2026, so we're 8 months into this 3-year agreement?
Ms. Frick and I were discussing that. Essentially, due to the city of Xenia's own omission by not giving us the agreement to amend the agreement, we informed them that we were not amend the agreement. So 2023, we were in the essentially previous agreement. It was continuing, and they were providing that service free of charge. So speaking with Ms. Frick, it was recommended that we maintain that year in the actual agreement to reflect that the 3 years is continuing, and we are in now the second half of that first year.
Because they have actually been providing the service, and we weren't charged up until this year anyway. So since it was to be a 3-year agreement anyways, it seemed to make more sense just to leave it that way rather than cause confusion 2 years down the line or 2.5 years down the line.
Okay. And
Makes sense.
the amount per year was based on per capita or based on?
Quite frankly, and the county administrator, Mr. Huddleston, and I had many conversations about this. It's purely arbitrary. And he would admit that publicly, and to anyone who asks him, this is just their best scenario of what they perceive to be a de minimis amount for the call types that we have in Beavercreek Township. It is also worthy to note, I have requested the actual call logs for Green Central. If the board would entertain me, the Green Central has gone through a recent staffing change with their dispatch manager. So it was unresponsive to my request, but I did actually have a conversation with the interim dispatch manager today, and who's much more receptive and amenable to Beavercreek Township, who's going to be providing the call volumes for these types of scenarios.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you aware that that screen is not on?
No.
I don't think. I can't see it
No,
from here.
it's not.
Is that? That one.
So if there's any other questions, or if there's none, do we have a motion to adopt this agreement?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 202-40212 Admin-E, the agreement between the City of Xenia, Ohio, Greene County, Ohio, and Beavercreek Township for dispatch services as presented and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Moving along, we have another agreement in front of you. This one is for services by and between the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission and Beavercreek Township. This is in response to a vacancy that we've had in the township for essentially our planning and zoning administrator. This position has been vacant since our former employee has left us. We're gracious that previous zoning administrator, Mr. Ed Amrine, has been filling in as an interim basis for planning and zoning services. As we know, this is merely a stopgap, and to avoid any service disruption or customer service to residents or business owners who wish to develop or expand within Beavercreek Township, we negotiated an agreement with Greene County Regional Planning Commission to be able to utilize their services for subdivision review. This agreement has been reviewed by legal as well. This agreement has been approved by the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission in full. So it's just waiting upon us to approve it, to be able to utilize their services in a manner very similar to actually maybe 10 plus years ago when the township did not have its own zoning and contracted for services through regional planning. Again, this is purely a stopgap measure as we continue to look and promote the need to fill the planning and zoning administrator role.
Mr. Rushing, if I missed it, then please correct me, but I did not see an exhibit or a schedule of a fee structure.
Yes, Board, if you look on the screen here, I did actually omit that, but here is the fee schedule for the services. So the executive director rate would be $58 per hour, a planner rate would be $36 an hour, and then administrative specialist, $24 an hour.
And then this agreement would be on demand, or are we setting a not to exceed amount for this?
It'd be on demand.
Okay.
There's no not to exceed and no retaining or retainer amount.
Okay.
It'd just be per hour as the services are needed.
Okay. And then who will facilitate authorizing them to work on a project? Is it
Be
make that
Mr.
request come
Grojan
from
as
Mr.
the
Grojan?
Administrator of Community
Okay.
Development and Risk.
Okay.
He also attends all Regional Planning Commission meetings as his schedule permits, not only on, has had as community development, but also for fire prevention as well.
Okay.
There's a sample motion on the screen.
I make a motion to adopt number 2024-0212-admin-F. Adopt the agreement between Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission and Beavercreek Township for subdivision and other services as presented, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
No sign of chief. Nope.
I sent a message to our chief, but to continue with the meeting, we do now have our monthly reports. First is Greene County Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Sean Kessel.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You may have noticed when you walk by the substation, the remodel is underway.
Saw
Carpet
that.
tiles down, paint's on the walls. We have countertop going in tomorrow, so hopefully next week or so we'll be in, so thank you again. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the reports.
Has the furniture arrived yet, or?
Actually, desk comes tomorrow, and
Okay.
lockers come, we have another 2 weeks lead time
Okay.
on that, so
So
get
it's all
there.
coming in on time. Looks like you were extremely busy in January.
We
A
were,
lot of different incidents that happened.
yeah, a lot of different call types popping up. So.
Any items or points of awareness as far as upcoming events or anything that we need to plan for?
Hamvention's around the corner. I will get with Captain Funk and we'll see how that's going to affect the township, and I'll make sure that you're made aware of that for the next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? If not,
Great.
you got off easy tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Board. Next is Human Resources, and to present the monthly report is our Human Resource Manager, Jill Sink.
Thanks for bearing with us, everyone. So apologize for the delay.
Can we get a?
I don't know that I like having all these folks here for this. Well, as you can see, I had a very busy month in January. We have 4 conditional offers that have been accepted and are outstanding. Those 4 candidates are in the midst of the screening process. The psychological assessments for those candidates are scheduled for this Friday. We do have one more candidate who was sort of pre-screened that has already been interviewed, that we're gonna try to catch up to the other 4. So hopefully we'll be onboarding 5 new firefighters, hopefully mid-March. I'm working with Michelle Grogan and Tori King, Terry Molden, and Chief Hawker to figure out the best way to do an onboarding process. So hopefully we'll have an all-new hire welcome packet for the new hires in March that is more streamlined, efficient, and hopefully electronic. So that when they start work that first day, they're just off and running. BWC is a big thing that I work with pretty much every single day in one way or another. But so far in '24, we've only had 1 claim, and it resulted in the loss of actually no real hours, just a transitional work day. I have had some conversations with some of the workers who have had more complicated claims to try to be sure everybody's on the same sheet of music with where we are. And I've reviewed the cases we have pending in court currently in detail to try to have a good grasp of the facts and how we got to where we are in those cases. I've processed an FMLA request. I've enrolled, one of our employees recently had a baby, so I enrolled her child and her spouse in health care coverage, dental and vision. Had all kinds of meetings, as you can see from the report.
Sure.
Just trying to get a handle on all the existing processes, what people would like to see us maybe do differently moving forward. There's been a lot of discussion about trying to, for me, I want to centralize records so that at least the ones I'm the custodian for are all in one place and easily accessible, and I know where they all are.
And HIPAA compliant.
Exactly. And I think for the employees as well, it would be great to have that centrally located area where they could access their personnel file if they wanted to. And it seems to be something everybody is on board to move towards changing that. So that's been a lot of the conversation.
Good.
And then I've done a couple of trainings. As you know, I was at OTA last week, and that was very informative and helpful. Although that's February, I guess, not January. But had meet and greets with all 3 fire shifts at the end of January, which I think went pretty well. I gave everyone my cell phone number, so hopefully that makes them feel comfortable in that I'm available to them when they might need me. I guess that's all I have for HR for January. Hopefully
Great.
more fun things in February.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Grogan. If you'd like to just brief us on community risk. and
Sure.
development.
All I have is the monthly report. I do want to indicate that after I submitted my monthly report to Mr. Rushing, that we did get an update from the auditor on his spreadsheet in regards to funding. So that'll be in the next packet as an update to that.
Okay. Do you recall what the new value was? I'm just
did not.
curious. It had to go up. So.
Yeah, we were at the conference and I received
Yeah.
it just at the time we were trying to submit it. So I apologize about that, but
Which obviously that increase is not linear to tax revenue necessarily. So not always, so just because they've received a 30% increase and possibly in valuation doesn't equate to a 30% increase in tax
Does not.
that the resident pays or that the township receives. So, okay. Any major points of awareness, concern, or issues we need to
Not of today.
head off or think of or be aware of?
Not of today. I apologize, I have my camera in my hands rather than my paperwork, so.
That's okay.
But no,
That's
no other,
okay.
no other issues, so.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Fessler, would you like to give us an IT update?
Thank you, Board. Nothing major to report that we'll put there in the packet as to a couple incidents that happened over the last month, some power and whatnot. The awareness item that we would like to come with to you next meeting will be a battery backup and power distribution budgeted request for the stations and this building. But that's the awareness item we have at this time for you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Fessler?
I had none.
No,
Thank
but
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Finance Department. Ms. Molden, we've been waiting all week for this. It's only Monday.
I have three separate resolutions to go with you. Well, I have A through F, which is three capital project funds. They've reached their 10-year max that you're allowed to keep them open. So we need to close each of those and then reopen them.
Okay.
So items A through F in finance will do that, if you want to approve those as presented.
Okay.
So 4901 is for the creation of the medics, 4903 is for fire apparatus, and 4904 is for fire stations.
Okay. And this is establishing essentially, so we need to establish the new, then essentially close the
Yes.
old and move
Yes.
the funds
You're
into
closing the old and then creating the new.
resolutions handling both in the same resolution. Okay.
A is closing it, B is opening it, C is closing
Just in case.
4903, and then D
Sure.
is opening it, and
Okay.
so on.
Okay. Mr. Rushing, on these finance resolutions, are you okay with approving as presented, or do we need to read them in?
No, please, you present them as presented.
Okay. If we can just read whoever makes the motion, just read the resolution numbers, so we can have those on record, and then we can close through them.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion on resolution number 202-40212-FIN-A, closing a capital project fund for the purchase of new ambulances, Fund 4901.
Second.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024212-FIN-B, a resolution establishing a reserve balance account for the purchase of new ambulances, Fund 4901, as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion on resolution number 202-40212-FINC, closing a capital project fund for the purchase of fire engines, Fund 4903.
Second.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024012-FIN-D, a resolution establishing a reserve balance account for the purchase of fire engines, Fund 4903, as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes. You want to do E? She's cruising there.
Other one? I'll make a motion, resolution number 202-40212-FINE, closing a capital project fund for the construction and improvement of fixed assets, Fire Station Fund 4904.
Second.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 202402112-FIN-F, a resolution establishing a reserve balance account for the construction and improvement of fixed assets fire stations, Fund 4904, as
Sec-
presented. Sorry.
Second.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
So next thing I have is, we had multiple additions totaling $964,574 to the certificate. We need to increase the certificate to $38,333,795.
You can pass this one as presented as well.
Okay, just get these all straight. I'll make a motion, resolution number 202402112-FING, to certify additional revenue to the official certificate of available resources as presented.
Second.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
And lastly, I have the permanent budget, starting on page 87. Most adjustments were made to the contingency lines. Total budget's $38,333,795.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 202402112-FIN-H, a resolution authorizing permanent appropriations for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
That's all I have.
After all that finance reports, I share her little sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Well, let's reconvene why we have all these fine people here today. I believe Chief Annabos is here to present our newest lieutenant.
Good evening, Board. I apologize for that. I got over here a little too early, and I did not have all my paperwork with me. So I appreciate Chief Easter's assistance in getting it printed off so we can get it before you. And so that we can get to the honored business tonight of recommending for promotion to the position of lieutenant, a member who demonstrates the knowledge and skills that exemplify the professionalism and pride of the Beavercreek Township Fire Department and our commitment to the citizens of Beavercreek. The position of lieutenant is charged with managing the day-to-day operations and readiness of the individual fire stations and personnel, lead their personnel in training, initiating and monitoring task-level assignments at various emergencies, managing programs and program budgets, and overseeing the development of the personnel they work beside. Lieutenants report to their captains. I'm recommending to you this evening that firefighter Joshua Smith be promoted to the position of lieutenant. Firefighter Joshua Smith is a dedicated firefighter with a passion for serving his community and ensuring the safety of others. Born and raised in Beavercreek, Ohio, Joshua's journey in emergency services began after graduating from Beavercreek High School in 2008. He wasted no time pursuing his calling, enrolling at Sinclair Community College, where he earned an associate's degree in EMS and fire science. During his time at Sinclair, Joshua also attained certifications such as Level 2 firefighter, paramedic, and fire inspector, laying a strong foundation for his career. Joshua furthered his education at Columbia Southern University, graduating with a bachelor's degree in fire administration. Armed with a solid academic background and deep commitment to his craft, he embarked on his firefighting career with Beavercreek Township Fire Department in 2012, initially starting as a part-time firefighter before securing a full-time position in 2014. Throughout his tenure with the department, Joshua has demonstrated a remarkable dedication to honing his skills and expanding his expertise. He has undergone extensive training and holds technical rescue certifications in various specialized areas, including ice rescue, rope rescue, swift water operations, vehicle rescue, trench rescue, structural collapse operations, and confined space rescue. In addition to his hands-on training, Joshua has pursued advanced certifications, completed Fire Officers Level 1 and 2 courses, and obtained certification as a live fire instructor. His commitment to excellence and professional development has earned him respect among his peers and leaders in the firefighting community. Currently, he serves in multiple capacities within the Beavercreek Township Fire Department. He is valued as a department fire instructor, sharing his knowledge and experience to mentor and train fire personnel. He also contributes as a member of the Fire Apparatus Spec Committee, ensuring that the department's equipment meets the highest standards of safety and effectiveness. Furthermore, Joshua is an integral part of Region 3 Rescue Strike Team, ready to respond to emergencies and provide critical assistance in times of crisis. Outside of his demanding role as a firefighter, Joshua finds joy and fulfillment in his family life. He cherishes moments spent with his wife, Caitlin, and their 2 boys, Henry and Julian. An avid supporter of his children's interests, Joshua actively coaches their sports teams and relishes opportunities to bond with them outdoors. He eagerly anticipates the challenges of stepping into the role of lieutenant and is grateful for this opportunity to further advance his career. It is my pleasure to recommend to the Board of Trustees that firefighter Joshua Smith be promoted to the position of lieutenant.
Great. Ready?
Administer the oath of office.
If you'd like to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joshua Smith,
I, Joshua Smith,
being duly sworn,
say
say that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of
and
Ohio,
will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of lieutenant
the duties of lieutenant
of the Beavercreek Township Fire Department,
of the Beavercreek Township Fire Department,
Greene County, Ohio.
Greene County, Ohio.
Thanks. Congratulations.
I'll need that back.
Right, same one.
Yeah, there's an extra one.
Elected officials, if you want to get some photos here up front. Lieutenant Smith, if you want to join them. Thank you, Board. As we regather, I'd like to turn back over to Chief Heister to do the 911 committee report.
If we can do the citizens desiring
Sure.
to speak. At this time, we'll ask any citizens desiring to speak, if you'd like to come up, 3 minutes. And seeing none, we will move on to Chief Heister.
Good evening, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to kind of present an update on the Next Gen 911 plan to you. The committee has been meeting, and we've been working through all sorts of logistical issues. But wanted as a precursor to most likely your next meeting, we will have a draft plan that will need to be voted on by the board as to whether to endorse the plan or not to endorse the plan. As we move through that, I did prepare a few slides with some of the high-level points for your information to just kind of give you the big picture. This Next Gen 911 plan is as a result of legislation that was passed in July of last year. It's been the culmination of a multi-year effort at the state level, and it is a redesign of the entire 911 system as we know it today. The law did come with funding, so that's probably the biggest portion of that. $46 million in funding in the law with a 2-year build-out. That $46 million is actually derived from the 911 funds. So currently, before July of last year, it was a 25-cent charge on every phone line, both cellular and landline phones, as well as voice over IP phones. The passage of that law increased that to 40 cents per line to provide the necessary funding for Next Gen 911. The change in the funding allowed the creation of a 911 Government Assistance Fund. So that's going to allow the money to be passed back to the local agencies to help offset some of those costs to build out the new 911 phone system, or the Next Gen 911 phone system. On the slide, I did a brief breakout. The biggest high point for that is that previously to that legislation, 97% of that 25 cents went towards local governments. And now it's 72% of the 40 cents goes to that same continuing operation cost for 911. The remainder of that, 25% of the 40 cents, is dedicated to the Next Gen 911 build out. So more will be coming to the local agencies, but it's coming in 2 different pots. One is the continuation of the operational expenses that are currently there, and then a new pot of money as they continue to build out that 911 portion of that. And then 3% it stays at the state level to kind of oversee the 911 program office and to collect those taxes. So, but I included that breakout information for you. Along with that, the legislation requires 911 public safety answering points to become compliant with ORC Chapter 128 within 2 years. So Beavercreek City, who provides our dispatch, is compliant now and plans to stay in compliance with ORC 128 for that time frame as well. So we're already there. We're already meeting that benchmark, but it's now codified in Ohio Revised Code for us. The county final plan is due to the state by April 3rd, 2024. As I took over this 911 coordinator position for the county, I've been trying to get my feet under me in a rapid rate here, but there was not a plan drafted or filed to date, so we're working aggressively to get that put together and filed on time. We should have a draft to the 911 review committee for the county at the April 21st meeting that's coming up. And then hopefully we'll have that draft approved by that board to bring to you so that we have time to get that into the state on time. In addition to that, the Ohio Revised Code requires that we file any changes. So if we make changes to our 911 plan across the county, we have to file those as amendments to the plan within 90 days of that change. And the financial reports are due annually to the state in March to account for all the 911 expenditures, both for the Next Gen platform and for existing operating costs. And so kind of just to brief you to that, the current 911 phone system was built around analog phone lines, and it has some significant limitations to that. I won't dive deeply into those unless you have questions about that. The replacement, the Next Gen 911 system, is built on a data network. So its goal, instead of being built around phone lines, is built around data. And the advantage to that is that we can get more information from the 911 caller, route that 911 call more efficiently to the appropriate dispatch center with the appropriate resources so that the call can be dispatched more quickly. With that being a robust data network, the routing options and the backups that are in play for that are significantly more robust than what we see today. So right now, if a 911 center goes down, it takes a manual effort to reroute those 911 calls somewhere else. In this Next Gen platform, that becomes automatic, and it can be automatic with conditions. So we can actually say a certain percentage of calls may go to Xenia, a certain percentage may go to Fairborn, but the platform itself can take care of that and manage that call load. So that's one of the big reasons for it, along with the additional data that goes into play with that. One of the big pieces that Next Gen 911 relies on is GIS. So the GIS information from us is important and a key stakeholder in making this platform work well. So the lines that we draw for where the 911 calls get answered, we have today. The county auditor's office manages those for us. And we use those in our Tyler programs now for CAD and dispatching. We're going to be able to send those directly to the state. And so as we make changes or boundaries move, we can more efficiently send those updates to the state. They can be applied more quickly than they have before. But not only will they be based for landlines as they are today, any device that resides within those boundaries will then get routed appropriately. Today they get routed based on the cell phone tower or the fiber internet connection that they pop out of. So if you have a phone voice provider with an internet service company that has you in Cincinnati, your 911 call would go to a Cincinnati center unless you specifically tell them it needs to go to Dayton. That changes automatically. Once we know your location, it will route you to the appropriate 911 center when you make that 911 call. So then the fault tolerance piece we already alluded to, but there are virtually unlimited routing options in the 911 environment in the NextGen platform. So as that's hosted by the state, we will connect to that or plan to connect to that currently. Rather than host our own core, there's some cost sharings. There is also the ability to purchase off a state term schedule any equipment that would need to be updated. And I know the city has a plan for theirs. I've seen theirs already. I'm currently reviewing Xenia and Fairborn's to see how theirs plays in and dovetails into that. So what's next for it is once we have that draft county plan and it goes through the county's 911 review board, Mr. Kretz is on that board. We will then have that plan to go out to all the local jurisdictions. We need to pass 60% of the populous jurisdictions for that plan to move forward with the state. So Beavercreek is obviously a major player in getting to that number, but that's where it stands today, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Chief Heister, if you can just maybe review the some of the deadlines that we're dealing with internally as a committee. So as far as number one, when this 60% has to be passed, which means if you work backwards from that
Sure.
date, as far as the road, kind of the road trip, that road show that you're doing, as far as hitting every municipality or the major ones.
Sure. So yeah,
We were actually going through last time at the last meeting a calculation trying to determine if Beavercreek Township, Sugar Creek, and Fairborn were to pass, hypothetically, what do we need to hit that minimum 60%? Because there's no obligation for these jurisdictions to respond. It's essentially an opt-out, but even then, it's really not a true opt-out scenario. As long as 60% approved by resolution, then the entire county is opted in.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. And so we're working backwards from that April 3rd, and they have a time window. I can't remember off the top of my head how long that time window is
Right,
for each
tight.
jurisdiction to respond.
60 days, I thought, which is
That
beyond the.
sounds correct,
Right.
but so we're right up against that window to work backward from that. So I'm here tonight to give you a preface of what's coming. I'll be going to the city immediately after this meeting and to the Township Association meeting tomorrow night to speak a little bit more in depth on this and answer as many questions as I can for all the townships within the county.
Great. Any questions?
And thank you for taking as much time as you have been on this. I know
Hopefully, hope you can get over to city in time, so,
I will be there.
all right.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being part of that committee. Leading that committee, I should say. Okay.
Thank you, Board. We now move on to our Public Service Department. We first have a surplus resolution.
Yes.
There is a-
We have surplus dollars in your fund?
Not mine.
Okay.
It'll help offset the cost of the renovations next door.
Okay.
And we gave Mr. Rushing an updated one since,
Yeah, there's a printed copy in front of you, next to Ms. Wallace, I believe.
and basically
That
it's
you're touching right now.
some desks and some shelves, and
This here?
stuff that's not gonna go back into the new space.
Can be passed as presented.
Okay, so make a motion for resolution number 202402212, PSD-A, adopting the resolution as presented for surplus equipment.
Second.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes.
And next is our public service report for the month of January, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
On your activity report, on your storm totals, is that based on the replacement cost, or is that based on the actual cost of what we paid to put in the barn?
Actually, the salt-wise, it's what we had in the barn at the beginning of the year.
Okay. And then fuel-wise, it's based on what was consumed at the time?
Right.
Okay.
What we're paying today.
You expecting to use some more salt soon?
Let's hope not. Hopefully we've rounded that corner and we're headed downhill.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple points of interest though, real quick. We do, worked out a deal with the city for them to store stuff from 9 acres for their new salt barn at our facility. Figured that's the least we could do as a neighbor, is to help them.
Are we charging rent?
We are not charging rent. However, they have to empty their salt barn at the end of the year before it gets torn down.
Okay.
We've made that apparent and told them we would be interested in any leftover salt at a discounted price.
All right.
Sure. There's a cost to haul it, right?
Right.
And
And
handle it.
the last thing is the street sweeper is in. Hopefully the delivery will be sometime in the next couple weeks. They're prepping it now. So it's been a long time coming, but it'll be here for our spring sweeping.
Okay.
Is there any EPA requirements when we empty that?
Yes, we haul it to the landfill.
You take it to the landfill, okay, so it's not like you have to have a permit every time you empty it?
No,
You just simply take it and dump it and let it go, okay. The liquid was the main concern, so.
Yeah, well,
Petroleum.
we store,
Oil, because obviously if you had to separate it, that was my bigger concern.
no.
Okay,
We stored it in an outdoor facility. Right now, we have one set up for the city. We're not sure at this point how many times they'll have to empty it, but they dump it in there, it kind of
sure.
drains off on pavement, and then they haul it out, so.
But the intent is not to be construction cleanup for developers. The intent is to let
No.
them take that responsibility and bear that cost.
That is correct. And if they don't comply with our kind orders of cleaning it up, we'll be more than happy to go out and do it at a set fee.
My only suggestion would be to make sure that that fee is higher than market, so that they don't rely upon you to do their work for them.
Right.
Good point.
Well, and we do have through the engineer's office, the authority to shut them down, so.
Right. I'm just saying,
Usually
it shouldn't be so competitively priced that it's worth it to let you handle it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. Move on to fire department. Chief Vandenboss has a few action items, or 2 action items.
Again, I apologize for earlier, and it actually follows, as you might have guessed, that I do not have the printout for the resolution either. So with the board's permission, I'll just hold that till the next meeting and have that prepared for you then. There is a discussion point on it, though, I would like to clarify, and I'll just build that into the resolution next time, which is the collaborative does have the interest, the collaborative being Englewood, Vandalia, and Clayton, Englewood, and Union Fire Departments do have an interest in acquiring our old bariatric equipment, the cot, the ramps, and the winch. So the question is, how would we like to, or would we like to give that to them, sell that to them? I don't know the ins and outs of actually donating it direct, but it could be as simple as it's under the $2,500 threshold, so we have a lot of latitude in how we would approach it. We could do a direct sale. We don't have to necessarily put it on gov deals. So I didn't know if the board had a particular interest in how we handled that.
I think we owe it to our taxpayers to get, to essentially recoup some cost on it. So that's my opinion. So it wasn't free to our taxpayers, and their taxpayers support their departments as well. That's my opinion. So I don't know how you establish. You could either let it go through the bid process and let them bid, or you could let it establish what you've seen them sell for, if you have any reference to even draw from.
They have estimated a value to them. I don't know exactly how they derive that. It's about 1,800, I believe, for all three pieces.
What's the replacement cost of all three pieces?
That I don't know. My guess is substantially more. Matter of fact, I don't even know if they make that type of cot anymore. So
And the
some
ramp.
of those.
Yeah.
The ramps are pretty generic, so that's probably the easiest one. The winch.
Winch is expensive.
Yeah, so far as I know, it's in good condition. So we could go with the estimated value they've presented, which would allow us to do a direct sale. Obviously, if we put it on GovDeals, somebody else could come in and get it in front of them. So if we wanted to make it available, then we would have to do something directly. If we want to make sure we know what market bears, we
Can
can
can we offer it to them at the $18.99 price?
Well, that's their price.
Oh, that's their price that they
Well,
gave
that's
us?
our estimated price. That's our
Who
estimated,
estimated it?
staff's estimated value of
Our
it.
staff.
Correct. It is not a replacement value. It's the
I
estimated
know.
current value.
Why don't we
As long as
just,
it's under $2,500, we can do a direct sale.
yeah, why don't you just either do it at $24.99 or put it on the auction of all three items as a package?
Okay.
That would be the other suggestion. I'd like to see it go at a fair market value, only because we paid fair market price.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
my
and
opinion.
We paid a substantial amount for the cot when we acquired it. Now it's, 10 or I don't know how many years old, but, so we've depreciated it certainly, but it is a valuable commodity. in and
It's
of
no
itself.
reflection of picking winners of Clayton, Inglewood, Union versus anyone else that would want it, but it's not our job to pick the winners necessarily, so.
Okay.
But that might make it more attractive to them that they have to take all three,
Okay.
is my opinion. It gets a board of three, so.
Yeah, as long as you guys are in consensus, I have absolutely no problem with that, and we can just let them know that that's.
Well, I think that they, based on your document here, it says they wanted all three.
That's
Correct?
correct, yes.
Correct.
But somebody else bidding may only want the winch and not
They may
want
only
the
be
cot
willing
or
to
the
bid
ramps.
$500 for the winch, but
Okay.
this way it goes as a package, it's
And then-
done
yeah.
administratively, it's less work and hassle to get rid of it.
Yep.
And
If you have to do it separately, then it's that much more
someone who
work.
just wants the $100 whatever, it's not gonna be attractive to them to pay the full boat. And it may go for more, it may go for less, but we can look at a taxpayer and say, we got what we got.
Okay.
So-
All right, thank you. We'll have that reflected in the resolution for next meeting then.
Thank you.
The next item is just a simple motion. We're requesting permission to apply for the current fiscal year. It's actually, I think, the 2023 fiscal year, which runs through mid-2024 for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. Staff has two proposed projects that they're investigating. One is for basically paying for paramedic education for all of our non-medic members. That seems to be a high priority and may be a good grant fit. The other is for a direct extraction exhaust system for the stations. We have passive or semi-active, depending on how you look at it, systems in each of the bays. We have two stations that have direct exhaust. Well, actually, Station 2, I think, has been removed. It had it was removed. Station 4 currently has it, but there are issues with the system. This would be replacing the existing systems and installing them in the stations that don't have them. And again, that seems, because of cancer awareness, that seems to be a high priority for the grant. Whichever project we pick would require a 10% local match. So wanted to make sure that the board is okay with either of those, or if not, we can certainly narrow it down. We think they both are high success chance based off the priorities that they have in the notice of funding opportunity. But just need direction that, number one, we can proceed, and then if you have a preference on which of those, or if there's something else that you're aware of that you think that we should pursue, we can certainly examine that.
You can only pursue one or the other, or can you pursue both?
You can pursue multiples, or at least I haven't read it this year, all of the guidance. In past years, you could pursue multiples in different categories, but those usually seem to get graded lower. we have had success as Beavercreek when we have chosen a single topic and
Focused.
then written specifically towards that. So that would be our preference to do again this year.
Okay.
And this one we are planning to do in-house. We're not planning to hire a grant writer, which we have done in the past for some of those.
I don't know why we wouldn't.
Okay. I'll make a motion to allow the fire department to apply for assistance to firefighters grants and authorize the fire chief and the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And then have in front of you the January activity report. The staffing issues we're continuing to be plagued by folks being off. We are working with Mrs. Sink very quickly to replace those. We're being stymied by applicants. I don't know if she had mentioned earlier, but we've had conditional offers extended that people have not accepted because they've gone someplace else. So we're actively trying to get good candidates and get them in the door. It's just a challenging market right now.
Is that because of the time our process is taking, or because they're painting the town with applications and?
I would guess probably both.
Okay.
Paramedics are going to be in high demand, so if there are multiple openings, they can probably pick their destination of choice. Basics are a little more limited, and obviously we've had delays with Ms. Gustafson leaving
Sure.
and then the interim. So we are working aggressively to get that time period tightened down, and I think we're going to see some positive results from it. But we're just kind of at the tail end of that process right now. So.
Okay.
It's just a challenge. We were hoping to have them in by March 1st, which is when our next live burn is. So spoiler alert, March 1st, if you want to come out. We will be doing some live fire training that day. I'll have more information in the next packet for you on that. Of our current probationary employees, they're all doing well, and firefighter Duford is actually enrolled in the prerequisite class for paramedics, so he will be starting medics officially in the fall. I am not sure about firefighter Wingard, but I think he intends to. I just don't know what the timing is for him. Obviously, we had the dedication ceremony. I apologize for the timing to get it all done and be able to get them in. I know you weren't able to attend, so you were there in spirit, and we appreciate the support and the willingness to let us move forward with it. They are actively driver's training and pump training. The driver's training has two components: road training, which is the driving around, just being familiar, and then there is a cone course. It's a national standard cone course that they perform to make sure they can maneuver them correctly. I was able to go out and do my road training in it already, and I will tell you they drive very, very nice. So excellent product. I appreciate you supporting us and getting those. I know the crews are very appreciative as well. And we are hoping to get them in service on two on the 22nd and 2 on the 23rd. That allows enough time for them to have 2 of the engines basically stripped down while they're transitioning and not affecting our overall ability to provide service.
No, the ceremony was well attended. It was well presented, and it was nice to be able to tie it in with the old timers breakfast. You set quite the standard, though. You need to do a momentous event for every old timers breakfast.
We have next year checked.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know.
And the next time we order trucks, I hope we get ones with reverse, so we don't have to push them in. So.
Yeah. Either that or we'll need a few more guys out front.
Yeah, no, it went off very well. So where are we storing the old ones while the new ones are in the bays?
They actually have them all in different bays.
Everything's
Yeah,
indoor.
they've
Okay.
moved enough stuff around to
All
make
right.
sure they're all under cover.
Okay.
while
I was
they
actually
do
asked that, just where are they going to park the old ones until you offload them? So.
The tanker and the Laverne may actually be out because those are literally going to surplus. The Crimson I'm not sure about just because that has some value to it. We don't want to have it rusting in the backyard somewhere until we're able
Sure.
to get rid of it.
Right, okay.
The ice rescue training was probably the other big one. We actually did have enough ice for a few days this year to provide the ice training, so the crews were out in the pond again. And they always make it a fun time, but it's an important training, and it's especially difficult for us because the timing of it is such that, yeah, if we miss it, we miss it. So to be able to keep the skills up and current, then make sure they're aggressive about getting out there and getting it done. So Lieutenant Kapler retired, which his retirement is what spawned the vacancy for Lieutenant Smith to be promoted tonight. So again, thank you for that. Bill left us after 27 years of service. It did all manner of things. He was one of the quiet, wise old guys that helped mentor and shepherd the kids along. He'll be very missed. He was one that did not want to go out with a big ceremony or anything like that. He's a very private person, and so the crews respected that. They did have a nice little lunch for him with the on-duty crews, his shift, and so he was able to get together with everybody. He was the leader of the spec committee for the new engines, and was able on his last day to go out and ride in one, so he was able to kind of close that loop, but he will be missed. And then Lieutenant Steve Renix just completed his first year, so just came off probation as an officer. So a lot of officer activity here in January, but it's exciting seeing the new folks coming up, interested and eager to go, and then obviously losing a lot of institutional knowledge with Bill's retirement.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Anything else I can answer for you?
Or have you been getting out to the fire stations and getting to visit some of the crews and doing some hands-on out there?
I've been out with the engine training, yes, but beyond that, Chief Heister and Chief Merckx have been out much more than I have. But yeah, we are, as a group, we're getting out.
Still like to see your presence out there.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that showing that the chief is there, and we're still trying to get that chain of command going, I think.
We'll do that.
Anything else for Chief? Chief, if you could stay there just for a second. If we have a scout here, if you want to come on up to the podium, and you can join the chief up here and just give us your name and why you're here. You've sat patiently for an hour, and 1 hour and 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
My name is Dalton Wood, and I am here for my citizenship in the community merit badge.
Great. Have you ever stood next to a fire chief?
No.
The cool stuff's upstairs.
All right.
Did you get it? You gonna go upstairs and see some of the engines and things?
Maybe. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Do we have to sign off on anything for you?
Do we have to sign anything to say that you were here, or?
No.
Okay, well, you're on public record now, so. We've got you. Is Mr. Grogan still here?
Yes.
All right, if you can get a picture of the chief and this young man, that'd be great. Yeah.
Actually, turn around. All right. Put the board in back.
Perfect. Thanks for bringing them, thanks for loaning them to us for an hour and 6 minutes and 28 seconds. I know he's enjoyed every moment.
Woke 'em up.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
All right, Ms. Frick,
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Zahariev. Wow. Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission.
I went to the meeting and I made some notes in the packet. That's quite a meeting. So I will be sure to venture into some more of those. Very cool. There wasn't anything for the
Related to,
township.
okay.
Yeah.
And TAC.
Well, before you go, I wanted to state that I put my name in for first vice president, and then I also requested if they don't have a person, I would like to chair the Institute Steering Committee again, if they have no one else to be the chair, so we'll see what happens. I should be able to go to first vice president, but the Institute Steering Committee, we'll see what happens, so just FYI for all of you.
Yeah, they have you in the packet.
Great. TAC.
Agendas in the packet.
Okay. Okay. And the regional planning, have nothing to report. Executive committee tomorrow. Health department.
Nothing for Beavercreek Township for the health department meeting. They had a presentation on like tobacco sales. The district advisory council meeting is coming up on March 19th. So, something from that.
Thank you. School superintendent, city manager.
Yes, I met with both the city manager and school superintendent. My meeting with the city manager was primarily focused on a discovery that there is a 2011 agreement by and between the city of Beavercreek and Beavercreek Township in regards to the senior center and operations. Actually, Finance Director Terry Molden and I have a meeting with the senior center staff as well as city leadership tomorrow afternoon to go over that agreement. It seems to point that there is some cost-sharing ventures that the township agreed to back in 2011 that we need to review and clarify. Meeting with superintendent, we discussed just the overall development of Beavercreek Township, keeping the schools informed of where we have future home development, as well as discussion about the future capital bond issue that will be on the ballot tentatively for November of this year, which the school is still desires and intends to place on the ballot to build a new high school campus. They do have some community engagement sessions coming up, one in March. And once that date has been passed along to me, I'll make sure the board's aware of that.
Thank you. Ray Patterson, Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board.
No meeting for Wright Pat, no meeting for Greene County Water and Wastewater Committee.
Okay, Greene County Township Association.
We have a meeting tomorrow night, and I forgot where it's gonna be.
Commissioners,
I think it's Career Center.
Green County
Hosted
Career
by the
Center, yeah.
judges, yeah,
Yeah, by
That's
the
right.
judicial branch.
thank you. I would have been at the better.
Investment Oversight Committee, I had nothing unless Mr. Zahariev had something.
No, I attended several meetings at OTA in regards to most of them investments as required for some continuing education opportunities for the fiscal officer. So I'll be sharing that also with staff in the finance department, some of the presentations. I did speak to potentially someone who would be interested, so in regards to providing investment portfolio to the township. So I recommended probably March timeframe, we will get the investment oversight committee together to hear where we're at with our current and then listen to any potential people interested in being involved in our investment policy.
Great. The Greene County 911 Advisory Committee, we already heard Chief Easter's report. The only thing I can add is that, so the committee essentially sits at the table and Chief Easter essentially explains everything to us and then we make decisions from there. So the Beavercreek Township and Greater Beavercreek in general is well served to have Chief Easter leading that and helping really form and formulate that plan and put it together on behalf, for all of the county. But specifically, we're lucky to have Chief Easter and have him on that committee because he's recognized everywhere he goes essentially as an expert and subject matter expert in that field. With that,
Before we should probably add, should start adding the Ohio Region 14 opioid committee. It's gonna start picking up. I'm vice president of that committee, and it's a 7-county committee. It's the money that's gonna be received. There's $51 million that we received for Region 14, 7 counties. We are now, in our next meeting, we will set the priorities for how the opioid dollars will be spent, whether it's gonna be prevention or housing or whatever, and the allocation per county. So if anyone in the township has any input on how drug addicted people what the priorities should be in our township, I'd love to hear about it. We are working with our, Greta, can't think of her last name right now. She's director for mental health, and we're working with Greene County commissioners on that endeavor to get programs for Greene County. And as programs come together, we will report to you on that.
one of the things that you might bring into that discussion is, so if you look at City of Xenia specifically, they have moratoriums on group homes and on addiction and treatment centers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems to be contradictory to what I understand is the mission of that is
from a recovery standpoint, to put those dollars towards folks that were impacted. And then the city turns around and has a moratorium, so it may be, and they're not alone, others have done the same thing. So, but it may be something that you bring to light and say, okay, how do you solve this problem and still have them compatible with residential neighborhoods?
Right.
So just
Thank
something
you.
to be aware of. So I have no problem adding that, so that's good. Anything else for the good of the order before we move? So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22D, as in David, 2, an audit conference conducted by the Auditor of State or an independent certified public accountants with officials of the public office that is subject of the audit. Number 2, to discuss under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G1, to consider the appointment, employment, and compensation of a public official and employee. And thirdly, to discuss under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G3, conference with an attorney concerning disputes involving the public body that are a subject of pending or imminent court action.
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing your mom.
Hey, Andrew.
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz? Yes. And do we have a motion, or what's the background of this that we're passing here? I'm sorry.
Yes, Board. We do have a request for terminal leave with one of our employees, Mr. Ben Northrup. He's been an employee with Beavercreek Township since 1995, serving in our public service department, starting just as a service worker and working his way up as a foreman within our public service department. After nearly 3 decades of service to the township, he has desired to retire. Kudos to him. He has requested his retirement date December of this year. Per township policy, a township employee may request terminal leave. So in lieu of the 30% severance pay, they're able to use that over time as terminal leave. It's my recommendation that we honor Mr. Ben Northrup. We thank him for his service, and we accept his request for terminal leave. There is a resolution in front of you, if you could read that into the record.
Thank you. Make a motion to adopt resolution number 20240212-PSD-B, a resolution recognizing the career of Ben Northup and authorizing his use of terminal leave. Whereas on January 16, 2024, Mr. Ben Northup submitted his letter of resignation for retirement to be effective December 18th, 2024, and whereas Mr. Northup submitted a written request to use of terminal leave in accordance with the township service retirement policy, section VI number 26, approved 11/7 of 2016, and whereas Mr. Northup began his career with Beavercreek Township on May 8th, 1995 as a member of the then road department, and whereas during Mr. Northup's career with Beavercreek Township, Ben served with distinction in ending his career as a foreman of the public service department, and whereas Mr. Northup is recognized for his nearly 3-decade career with Beavercreek Township, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, offer Mr. Northup their gratitude for his years of service to Beavercreek Township and congratulate you on your retirement from Beavercreek Township, and further be it resolved that Section 1, the Board authorizes Mr. Ben Northup's request use of terminal leave in accordance with the Township Service Retirement Policy based on the computed hours as presented by him and upon verification and approval of the Finance Department. Further be it resolved that all formal actions of the Board of Trustees concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution are being adopted at a duly called and authorized open meeting of the Board of Trustees on the date set forth above, such meeting being duly called pursuant to and in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. Thank you, Board. That's all the business we have this evening.
We did want to talk about that. We did have a great audit review, and we talked about that to our auditor. What was it?
BHM.
BHM. And we discussed our audit in the executive session.
Very good. Anything else to come before the board this evening? If
I'll make a
not,
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.